Well, what is up, drivers and subscribers? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a very cool video idea I wanted to talk to you guys. So today we are sweeping, we are running around helping everybody out. We are picking up 2 totes at a time. So in today's video we're going to be talking about one of the biggest flaws Amazon does when it first brings in its delivery drivers. Why so many different delivery drivers quit, and what Amazon can do with one little tweak to fix it. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments, from all you fellow drivers out there. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me with this topic. So, when you're first brought on as a driver, right? You do your orientation at the station, you do all your training there at the warehouse. And to me, something that's always struck me weird is when you're first brought in and you're doing all your training to be a driver, you're essentially being taught by warehouse people that run the warehouse itself in the Amazon station. So therefore, when it comes to the delivery side, it's really a huge flaw because they focus on putting all your heaviest packages in the center of the van and, you know, organizing a certain way, which is not realistic, because you have to consider a lot of these people that are working in the warehouse have never done delivery. So when it comes to having a huge flaw right out the gate, Amazon's really messing up by having warehouse people train drivers on how to do the job, right? They have an idea of the way things are done and why we do things a certain way. But for the most part, they're not going to be able to tell you how to save time and what methods to use to get your routes completed faster, let alone knowing the corners and where to deliver on the actual business runs and stuff like that. So I've always felt like when it comes to the training, all right, we got one more going back here. Yeah, so for drivers to have a realistic perspective of what to expect, I think a driver itself should be the ones training all new drivers coming in. I'll leave this right here. Because in that sense, a driver can give them a real perspective of what to expect when it comes to the job itself. Now the warehouse folks, again, this is no shade at the actual warehouse people. They do try. They have the right mindset and have the idea of the job. But in comparison, it's also like a busboy trying to tell the chef how to do a meal, right? It doesn't really work that way. So in my opinion, I think it should be seasoned drivers that have years under their belt that can help a person and answer any question and get them out of any situation out the gate. And they can really give them, you know, the real version of, hey, you're gonna be in a van 11, almost 12 hours a day in some cases. Peak season, you're gonna get extra days, you're gonna get wore down. Like, definitely all that stuff is something to take into consideration, because honestly there's something to be said about when you first start, like we've talked about, you know, your body has to get used to that. And honestly, like a lot of people you'll see on social media say Amazon will hire anybody. Part of that is true, part of that is not true. I cover that in a different video. Amazon's idea is the more bodies the better, because not everybody lasts. We'll put that right behind here. And it really does go back to, you know, the training and stuff right out of the gate you're getting from these warehouse people is not really ideally what you're going to experience out in the field. So when drivers get out in the field and they actually start delivering, they're like, this is not what I was told to do, or they didn't tell me to get out of this situation by doing this. And then you'll have to call driver support in a lot of situations. They don't prepare you for that either. They tell you, you know, call driver support for everything. Try not to call your DSP, but your DSP is the one that'll help you out the most. So some stuff they do is definitely backwards. And I get it, because believe me, there's no way I can, you know, tell people how to do the warehouse side either. How we doing, boss? Good, man. Just got one. I'm gonna snap a quick picture of it and we will all be all set, my friend. Have a good day, brother. Stay cool. Appreciate you. All right, time for everybody's favorites, waters. All right, can we do both of these? Yeah. And I would love your guys' feedback on this video, because I feel like setting people up to do this gig and having them prepared mentally is going to be a huge difference maker out the gate. Because I've talked about it before, this job is not for the weak, you know? If you're somebody who's done like landscaping, constructions, maybe you worked out in the fields. Yeah, if you've done some more of the labor intensive jobs, you'll realize why I say this is an easy gig. It's demanding on the body and mentally, but not like working out in the fields and, you know, sorting tomatoes and stuff for 12 hours a day and making half of what you would make out here on a delivery route. Yeah, so when it comes to hard labor, we're no stranger, for sure. Yeah, so, and this stuck out to me because one night, like after a year of working for Amazon already, I had seen the lady that trained our class. I noticed the lady that was training our class and my orientation, she was collecting the totes at the end of the night. She must have switched shifts and she was working at night now. Yeah, and I remember thinking to myself when I first saw her back at the station, these people aren't appointed certain positions, like they don't have a veteran driver doing this for new drivers coming in, and they don't. It's actually warehouse people, which is really weird, and I think that's Amazon's biggest flaw when it comes to drivers coming in and lasting in this job, because you're not given the realistic perspective of what you're going to be doing or how to get out of situations. And I feel like having a driver do that would make a big difference in people lasting longer or not. By the garage door, at this door over here. Okay. Yeah, and that's always been on my mind for a while. I thought about doing a video about this for a while because I know it's definitely going to get a lot of interactions in the comments. And we're going to do some more video ideas about more reasons of why drivers quit working for Amazon. Alright, so right now it's kicking me out on a mandatory heat break. Right, so we're going to go ahead and start that heat break real quick because it is 113 outside right now. 113. Crazy, right? But on the bright side, it's cloudy, so it's not direct heat on me, which is nice. You guys let me know in the comments, do you prefer cloudy days like this to block the sun even though it's hot? Kind of makes it a little musty, but for me, I prefer it this way if I'm being honest. Anytime you get an opportunity, keep your phone on the charger, charge that thing. So again, there's a lot to it that goes into this job, as again, us drivers are with a third-party company. We don't work directly for Amazon. Shocker, I know. Whole nother video about that. But my thought process is, if a driver comes in with the realistic version of what they're going to be doing, ways to get out of situations, totally understanding the job and what they're getting into, then they're not led into something where they're not liking it. Because when you're getting into something and you're unsure about it, you know, it's probably always going to leave a question mark for you, and probably the difference maker in you moving on to do something else, or you continuing delivering, right? A big part of it is people that are helpful, that can get you out of situations, that can help guide you through, you know, certain areas of town, that have the experience that comes with it hand in hand. All this stuff matters, which is why I think ultimately drivers with years of experience on teams should be some of the people selected to be trainers as far as bringing new batches of drivers in. Again, I understand why Amazon does it. They try to get them familiar with the station and what the setup's going to be like and how they come in and get their packages. But I think that's just a small part of the job, because it doesn't take much to go and get your packages and load it. I think it's more of a focus on how you should be loading and ways to save time when loading. That way it makes the whole day easier for you and you're not working overwhelmed or under stress all day. Alrighty guys, we're back. We had to take our heat break. The camera started overheating. The phone started overheating. I started overheating. No, but what I was saying is just, I feel like a driver in that position would help so much more. Saying, hey, this is why we park in the driveways and when there's no sidewalk, because, you know, customers get pissed off when we walk on their grass, and, you know, this is why we park on this side of the street to save time and, you know, take the least steps amount as possible and while being quickest at the same time. All these little things are a huge difference maker in your day. Ooh, one of our favorite style of deliveries, straight over the gate. And the same thing goes with like giving them a real perspective when it comes to, hey, don't come in running every stop, because when you do that, you're just going to screw yourself over in the long run, because all you're going to do is end up getting more stops total in your route, because Amazon's used to knocking out a certain amount of stops per hour. which is in my case. Yeah, and the more and more you start doing the job, you start to recognize and realize what's happening. At the back, make sure it's not a dog. The same thing would go for, you know, violations and how to avoid them, right? Because they give you an idea of what kind of violations are, but they don't really tell you how to avoid them. A driver can tell you what's going to trigger that camera to go off, what you're doing to get your speeding violations, what's considered accelerating. Yeah, I just kind of feel like all that stuff's pretty important, and it's going to come in handy for these drivers. And them knowing that kind of stuff is going to make them, you know, not get overwhelmed in certain situations that they weren't trained for. And I think that's the biggest thing, is they can't really train you for that position when you really don't understand fully the position, if you catch my drift. Yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on this topic and what your guys' thought process is on this, because I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think it'd be a huge difference maker in drivers lasting and just understanding and liking the job more. Nice car, beautiful. This is the last one for this rescue. With that being said, like I said, my friends, I'd love to hear from you about this topic. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I got thick skin, I can handle it. Again, I don't think I'm right about everything, but I think certain situations would make everything easier for a lot of drivers, and I think that's a big one starting out the gate. And with that being said, if you're a driver, as always, stay safe out on the roads. And to all you drivers and subscribers who have been watching the videos, know I appreciate you. All you new subscribers, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you want to see plenty more video ideas, definitely check out the channel. I got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. Alrighty, my friends, and as always, I appreciate you guys hanging out and spending some time with me. Make sure you guys clock out of your shift, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.